Greetings, members, one and all of the Salivation Nation, asking the perplexing question, who owns the most silver in the world? The answer may surprise you. Let's explore! There was a time when that question could be answered relatively easily. But in this day and age, things are a lot more complicated, such as life. You know, we don't live in simple times anymore. And a lot of it is based off of technology and the information age. It kind of complicates some matters. And in fact, even just getting to basic facts sometimes causes a lot more questions than answers. But let's take a step back into time and review about who has owned the most silver in the past. We're going to start here with the Hunt brothers. That's right, the Hunt brothers cornered the market in silver back in the 80s. And we're referencing an article here from SD Bullion that talks about this. And the Hunt brothers, the silver hoard in 1980 was the year to remember. We saw the peak prices here, the size of the scope of the Hunt Brothers silver hoarder is about 100 million troy ounces. Not really much of a silver market corner, given that it's estimated that there's some 12 billion ounces of silver above ground in 1980. The problem was the Hunt Brothers near January 1980 peak and silver prices forgot to take their own sage advice. Never gamble on silver prices. Using leverage and fickle could vanish in thin air, and stick your position in silver bullion paid in full. So essentially what happened in 1980, away from the COMEX rigs and rules, that they pulled the rug out of Hunt Brothers over leveraging silver betting position. And it's a very interesting situation what happened there, but they owned of all that silver, and it certainly was not. It was only a small fraction of the amount of silver that was in the total market, but there was essentially they held the most silver, the most physical silver. Very interesting indeed. Then the second owner, of which some say owned the most, it would be Warren Buffett. Berkshire and Hathaway. Warren Buffett had the silver hoard, and they amassed 129.7 million troy ounces in a much faster time frame than the Hunt brothers ever did, with their former record silver position being only about 77% of silver bug Warren at the time. And so he doesn't own that silver anymore. He sold it all. He sold a lot of that silver. I don't know what he's got now, but my guess is it's not anywhere near that much. Still, that was the time when the market was a little bit more complicated, but he was acquired through Troes by prices of early 1997 of about $4.38 per ounce, and early 1998 of about $6.05 per ounce. And they were paid with U.S. dollars. And so there is an example of how much silver owned there. And then the third largest position in silver is not really an owner of silver, but a custodian of silver. That would be J.P. Morgan, and they continue to hold that amount today. J.P. Morgan does. And so when you think about what they do, they hold the silver, and then they use it for their positions with the SLV, the ETFs. And of course, when you think about how much is owned in the ETFs, well, that's not the physical. We know there's a lot more ETFs out there than there is the silver to back it. But they have this, they own it in their own right, in their own storage, and also in the COMEX depository. And that is something that I think a lot of people use as justification for what people think is suppression, that J.P. Morgan has that much control over price suppression. because they are the custodian of all this silver, and their vaults are also in the COMEX stockpiles. And we know that JP Morgan itself has been caught manipulating precious metals on their trading desk. But again, that manipulation was in regards to the prices moving up and down from within the precious metals trading desk in order to gain profits from the individuals involved, which includes the head of the precious metals trading desk. So corruption is there, but it's selfish. It's for selfish gain. It's not for a greater cause. And what would that greater cause be? To suppress the price of silver, which we've not seen evidence of. But nonetheless, because JP Morgan is the largest custodian of silver, many people would say they own all that silver, but that is not the case. They are not the largest owners of silver out there. They are the custodians. They hold it in their vaults, and they control the positions in the vaults of some of the vaults in the COMEX. So essentially, that makes us wonder, well, who does own the most silver in the world, especially today in the complex market that we see? And what about the way silver is divided up between futures, between options, between ETFs? Well, that all boils down to the physical silver, because that's what matters. That's where it counts. And so therefore, the answer to the question is who owns the most silver in the world. The question needs to be refined a little bit more. Is who owns the most physical silver in the world? And that answer does not go to any one individual, because we don't know. We really don't know what individual owns the most silver in the world. It's not Uncle Sal, it's not me, and it's not Silver Slacker, who we know owns several contracts of physical silver in his possession. And there's others that I've seen, people that own well over 7,000, some close to 10,000 ounces. I've heard there's some comments in this community. But the answer really is all of us. It's the physical silver stackers out there. The collective of all of us. We own the most physical silver between us in our possessions, because what happens in the industry uses silver to produce items that is silver that is consumed. So therefore, they may have a stockpile, but that stockpile is revolving. It comes in and it goes out, and it's nothing that's stored. And so they essentially, it's a product that is used for manufacturing and for technology, for medicine. But the beauty of physical silver is ownership of it. And so as using as a part of a manufacturing process, it is not stored very long. What's stored is going to be utilized for production. But for those of us who accumulate silver, well, we hold and own the vast majority of it. We have it. We own it. It's in our possession. And so who owns the most silver in the world would be us, the silver stackers. And that is the beautiful thing about it. The power is in our hands as we accumulate this metal. Now, I want to make a note is that our effect on the silver market is relatively small, as we've seen from the silver squeeze. And there are various reasons that one can debate about that. A lot of people will say is who controls the COMEX, and of course they blame price suppression and the like. Nonetheless, the silver market, though small and tiny compared to other commodities assets out there, it is a large market, and it is a complex market, and there's a lot of different factors that can affect the price of it as a commodity, much less as a hedge against economic instability, which we see silver as. And those of us that do hold this metal in the various different forms, such as you see here, well, we see it as a monetary metal, as hibernating money. I refer to it as hibernating money, meaning that it is not used in everyday transactions. Silver is not used as a currency right now, but nonetheless, it's only stopped being used as a currency in recent history. And I believe there will come a time when it could be utilized in a monetary system, should there be a cause or a case to implement it in one. Very easily it could be utilized. And I believe that since it can be transacted between private individuals, especially in different ways, shapes, and forms, utilizing technology, such as the blockchain or some variation thereof, I believe that it is right to be used as a monetary metal again. And as they mine more of it, who knows? There may be enough of it to go around to be utilized in transactions, just as it was back in the day before 1964. And here you can see an example right there of a constitutional quarter. That quarter was utilized in transaction. It actually has survived being utilized as money. Silver is money. Although the markets don't really view it as money anymore, we understand that it is. And so we, the silver stackers and accumulators, well, we pride ourselves in holding this metal in our possession as the owners of the most physical silver in the world. COMEX really, though they have all of these storing and holdings of it, they don't own it. They're custodians of it. There's a big difference between being a custodian of a commodity or anything and owning it. And what other commodity out there can you think of that anybody would want to stockpile or stack, as we call it? Are we going to call ourselves silver stockpilers? No, we're silver stackers. Some people think that term is elementary or kind of basic or what have you, but it is. We're stacking it up to prepare for the inevitability of the decline of the dollar, which continues to happen every day. And even though silver fluctuates in price, and there are times when it performs worse than the dollar, there are times when it performs at a greater rate or pace than the dollar. In the end, it all evens out, and essentially meaning that it does serve as a hedge against economic instability. So there's the answer to the question. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. The age-old question, the complex question, who owns the most silver? It's us. A multitude of gratitude to you all for taking the time to watch this video. And I want to encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.